any background noise for the speakers. We do have a couple of short polls to do today as well, so you'll need your phone at the ready to scan a QR code on the screen. So we'll give it 30 more seconds and then we'll make a start.
It'll come through to your Teams in a few.
Okay, I think we'll make a start. Quite a number of people on the call now, and the others can join us as and when. So thank you very much for joining us. First of all, today's webinar is the first of 8 online webinars being delivered as part of our Net Zero Insights webinar series. Donna, if you could move on to the next slide, please. Today's UK Energy Efficiency Day, so we couldn't think of a better date to bring you 2 webinars on that theme and hopefully give you some tips, tricks, and experience of what it might mean for your business. This first webinar this morning is aimed more for small businesses, and then our second webinar this afternoon has similar content for part of it, but is aimed at slightly larger companies and with a different case study. So today's agenda, to get us started, I'll run very quickly through what we hope to cover. I suppose by way of introduction, my name's Conor O'Dornan. I'm the Net Zero Innovation and Delivery Manager at Mid and East Antrim Borough Council. I'm responsible for implementing the MEANZ Business project, and a little more on that in a second. This Net Zero Insights series is part of that MEANZ Business project. So after I give you a quick overview of what the programme is, I'll be passing over to our expert speakers for this morning's session. So first you'll hear from Lucy Joss, who is the training and content developer at Energy Saving Trust. Lucy will share her thoughts on energy efficiency and what it might mean for your business. And hopefully you'll be able to pick up some information on how you might tackle energy efficiency within your own business. Lucy will then be followed by Paul Caves, who is the Managing Director of Stevens Catering Equipment based here in Mid and East Antrim Borough Council. Paul will give you some insights into the energy efficiency journey which Stevens Catering have been on recently and some of the challenges and lessons they have learned along the way. We will have a Q&A with our speakers and then we'll close out this morning's session with a short summary. So in terms of what to expect, we want to try and keep this to 45 minutes if possible. So we will have 10 minutes for each of our 2 speakers, first Lucy, followed by Paul. Please do post your questions in the chat. You won't have the opportunity to raise your hand or to interject during the session. So please do use the chat as we go along throughout the presentations if there's anything you'd like to ask. This session is being recorded. And we will be asking for some participant feedback both at the start and at the end via a couple of polls if we have time. So have your phone ready to be able to do that. So the MEANZ Business project, it's an Innovate UK programme. We are funded under the Fast Followers project. MEA Net Zero Business is the title. It's part of the UK-wide Net Zero Living programme. The programme itself is designed to help local authorities to address non-technical barriers, and MEANZ Business, our project, will increase understanding and knowledge of decarbonisation and net zero within Mid and East Antrim Borough Council. So the key elements of our project include an insights programme, and that's what this Net Zero Insights series is part of. Quite a lot of best practice sharing, knowledge transfer, sharing, and this webinar insights series to hopefully try and share some best practice. We also have a corporate or council decarbonisation element, which is helping council to address our own decarbonisation plan and try to reach our own net zero targets and addressing the non-technical barriers that are stopping us or slowing us down in terms of achieving that. We also then are supporting industry. We have an industry decarbonisation element, so we're supporting industry to address their decarbonisation challenges. And then finally, Innovate UK have provided us with what they call the Future Ready programme, which is underpinning all of our work packages and all of the projects funded under Net Zero Living. And that includes quite a lot of insights, sharing, training, and mentoring. So to kick us off, we would like to get some feedback from yourselves. So should be a Slido QR code on your screen. If you wouldn't mind scanning that with your phone and going to the poll, we have two very short questions. We just want to ascertain where the companies on the call or the stakeholders on the call are in terms of their decarbonisation journeys. So if you could answer this as your organisation or in respect of your organisation. The first one is, what are the biggest challenges your business or organisation faces in reducing your own carbon footprint or reaching net zero? So choose any and all that are relevant for you, and we'll give you kind of 20 or 30 seconds to do that. Hopefully you should be able to get the QR code to work, or if you visit slido.com, the code is on the screen. Okay, not surprisingly, one of the first ones that came up was finance and investment, something obviously relevant, both public and private sector and across the board. Interestingly, knowledge and expertise, that's great that that's a response, because obviously part of what we're doing today is trying to share some knowledge and expertise around energy efficiency and around net zero, and our entire Insights series, which we'll touch on a little more later, will hopefully do that across the board, across a number of different subject areas. Okay, so 12 responses so far, knowledge and expertise and supply chain management, which is quite interesting, both at the top. Maybe people on the call are further along with their fleet decarbonisation. Maybe that's something that people are already addressing. Be interesting if you do have thoughts or more comments on why these are your responses, please do post those in the chat. Decarbonising energy usage, obviously energy efficiency, a big part of that. So nice to see that coming up too. Okay, maybe if we move to the next question, Donna, if that's okay. So this is more about where you are on that journey. Where does your business or your organization currently sit? Are you only starting? Do you have a plan? Have you not even thought about it yet? Or are you well advanced, or indeed have you achieved net zero as a business? Give us some insight into where you are along that journey, and hopefully we can tailor our content for the future webinars accordingly. So almost half of you beginning to plan. Again, 14 or 15 people responding to this, which is probably what we expect given the number of attendees. 20%. Okay, so 3 or 4 people well advanced in implementing net zero plans, which is great. Or that have a plan and are implementing it. So excellent. Just 14% that haven't thought about it yet. So hopefully we can help there as well. Okay, Donna, if we move on, please. We do have another poll at the end, which is more about what your understanding is on what we discussed today. But without, yeah, so the next stage is to invite Lucy Joss from Energy Saving Trust along, and she's going to give us a presentation on what energy efficiency means and how we can achieve it.
That's great. Thanks so much, Connor. Hi, everyone. As Connor says, I'm Lucy Joss from Energy Saving Trust, training and content developer. And yeah, I'm just going to give you an overview of what we mean by energy efficiency and what sorts of things you can maybe do to achieve it within your business. If you can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So just a quick definition, what it means to be energy efficient. So being energy efficient means using less energy to do the same things that you do every day, whether that's at home, when you're out and about, when you're at work, and so on. And being energy efficient can be achieved by several things. So it can be achieved by measuring your energy use and having a plan or a policy in place to reduce it. It can be achieved by installing energy efficiency measures, and I'll give some examples of those later on. And it can also be achieved by implementing behaviour change, and again I'll give some examples later on as well. But what does this mean for businesses? Why is it important to save energy? If we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So here we've got 4 key benefits to saving energy. The first one is the environment. So a key benefit of saving energy is the positive impact it has on our environment. So lots of our energy comes from burning fossil fuels like oil and gas, although more and more of it is now being generated by renewable technologies like wind and solar power. As of Monday this week, actually, we no longer have any coal-fired power stations in the UK. So fossil fuel wise, we're just in the oil and gas. So that's great news. We're moving in the right direction. The International Energy Agency, or the IEA, they say that by using energy more efficiently, it is possible that we could reduce more than 40% of the carbon emissions that need to be prevented by 2040 as well. Our greenhouse gas emissions have increased since the Industrial Revolution, and they contribute to human-induced climate change, which is having notable impacts across the world. There's many types of workplaces and businesses out there, and many of which have different operations that contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. Approximately 25% of the UK's greenhouse gas emissions are from business. So every organisation needs to be examining how its operations are contributing to climate change, and taking action through energy efficiency measures and behaviour change. So that's one key benefit. Our second one here is water. So outside of the workplace and our homes, water's processed and transported, and that requires huge amounts of energy. So it's important that we're using that wisely and we're not wasting it, especially in the UK, where we are actually starting to experience hotter, drier summers due to climate change. Hot water's also got the additional environmental and financial impact of needing to be heated as well. So using water more efficiently is just as important as using energy efficiently. A big benefit as well is money. So by being energy efficient in the workplace, it could help the organisation cut costs by saving money on energy bills. The average small and medium enterprise, or SME, could reduce its energy bills by somewhere around 18 to 25% just by installing energy efficiency measures and implementing behaviour change. And this becomes even more significant with energy bills on the rise as they are, and operating costs as well. In some cases, staff might work from home as well, so applying the same approaches can also help to reduce household bills for home workers as well. And an additional benefit is the reputation of the business or the organisation. Since being energy efficient has a positive impact on the environment, this can be an attractive draw for customers or clients, and it just feels good to do something positive as well. So perfect. Next slide, please, Donna. Thank you. So where might your business be using energy? There's lots of different areas. I'll just give some examples. So you could be using energy for heating and cooling, any mechanical ventilation systems such as extractor fans, lighting, computing equipment, that's including computers, printers, monitors, photocopiers, phones, that sort of thing. Appliances and facilities, maybe in kitchen areas, for example, kettles, fridge freezers, or maybe showers and toilets as well on the water side. Also any equipment specific to your business, manufacturing equipment, for example. And also transport for commuting or for business travel. You've maybe got a fleet of vehicles and things like that. So the first thing you want to do is work out where you're using energy, and then from there you can determine how to use it more efficiently. So here we've got a few examples of what you can do to save energy. So in terms of measures that you can implement in your business, whether you work solo, whether you're in a small office or any kind of workplace, you can look at insulation. So as mentioned, energy is used for heating and cooling. Regardless of what system provides that, heat can be lost through different areas of the building. So ensuring that the building's adequately insulated helps retain that heat, which then allows you to reduce how much energy you use for heating. And that works in reverse as well. So insulation can prevent the building from overheating during warm weather, which reduces the need for the cooling systems kicking in. And insulation just makes everyone more comfortable and reduces the demands on your heating and cooling systems. And the heating system itself makes a big difference. One of the key benefits we saw of saving energy was the positive impact on the environment. So we're needing to reduce our use of fossil fuels for heating, so your coal, oil and gas. So it's important to start exploring low or zero carbon heating systems, for example, heat pumps. To give that as an example, there's many different types of heat pumps, but essentially what they do is they capture heat from the outside environment, which is usually the air or ground, but it can be the water, for example. They then transfer that heat around a building through a distribution system such as radiators or underfloor heating or air vents. They use a little bit of electricity to do that, but they deliver more heat than the electricity that they use to run. And they also don't burn fuel, so they don't emit any carbon dioxide. And because the electricity grid itself has been becoming greener since around 2010, with sources like solar and wind power, that means the electricity that it's using is getting greener as well. So all that's positive news for heat pumps and also other electric heating systems. So changing your heating system is a key step in reducing the carbon emissions from your business, which has a positive impact on your reputation, and in some cases it may even save you money on your bills as well. And you can also generate your own energy thanks to technologies that work with our natural environment. So a common example that you've probably heard of are solar PV panels, and they capture energy from the sun and use this to generate electricity. Paired with a battery storage system, which can store electricity for later use, this can be a great way for businesses to reduce energy costs as sunlight is free. It's also another way to reduce the carbon emissions from your business because you can reduce how much electricity you use from the grid, which, despite becoming greener, is still using some fossil fuel generated electricity. And then the rest of the examples on here are more behavioural advice. I'll just touch on these briefly, but there's things like just taking control of the heating, cooling and ventilation systems, for example through thermostats or thermostatic radiator valves, timers, and so on. But also making use of more kind of natural heat and cooling, for example, opening the blinds to let sunlight in, opening windows and doors, and doing the opposite to keep the heat in. Switching things off as well, like lights, computing equipment, other equipment where possible. It's just sort of having a look at whether you can turn things off for certain periods of time just to save a bit more energy. Equipment and lights and things also produce heat when they're on, so it can be good for kind of balancing the warmth of the workplace as well. And generally just using it wisely. So we're talking about energy and water. We do need to use them for our business and for our lives, but can we just sort of think about how we're using them? Yeah, just to kind of be mindful, I guess, of what we're using. Moving sustainably is all about transport. So perhaps if you've got people commuting into the workplace, or if you're traveling for business purposes, is there alternatives to driving sort of petrol and diesel vehicles? Can you look at electric vehicles? Can you look at active travel like walking and cycling and so on? Finally, the last 2 points there are just keeping track of your energy use. It's a good way to sort of monitor what you're using, so that you can then make a plan for how to address your carbon emissions and what you can do to implement those that advice. And also just raising awareness with, if you've got employees, raising awareness of probably more the behavioural advice there. So engaging them in energy efficiency, just to get everyone on board to make some changes. So that's a very, very quick overview. I'm happy to take any questions on that later on as well, or you can also reach out to us or have a look on our website for more information. But just very quickly there, I'm just conscious of time, but I'm just going to quickly go over some financial support that's available in the area. So we have the Northern Ireland Sustainable Energy Programme, or NICEP for short, which provides energy efficiency measures to homeowners and tenants, but also the commercial sector as well. So yeah, you can see on here some examples of what you can maybe get through that. There's a 20% grant towards measures such as heat pumps, solar PV, LED lighting, heat recovery systems, things like that. So the details are there on the screen if you want to learn a bit more about that one. And just on the next slide is a final option, which is the Energy Efficiency Capital Grant, which helps businesses reduce their energy costs and build resilience through green efficiency. So for this one, there's grants of up to £150,000 to help businesses buy and install energy efficiency equipment. So examples of projects considered in the grant are things like heating and cooling equipment, compressed air, motors, drives, lighting, and on-site renewable generation. So again, there's a few links on the slides there for you. And I think that's everything from me just now. I'll hand you back to Connor, who will continue the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, that's great, Lucy. Thank you. Quite striking, obviously, that there's a lot of technology and equipment that can be applied in terms of energy efficiency, but that behavioural change is obviously a huge part of it, and the two go hand in hand. So if you do have any questions for Lucy, please do post them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them as part of the Q&A session. Okay, so you've heard about kind of what energy efficiency is from Lucy and the key things to consider. We now welcome Paul Caves from Stephen's Catering, who's going to take us through their journey in relation to energy efficiency and what they've experienced. Paul?
Hiya, folks. First of all, by no means am I an expert in energy efficiency. I'll just give you an outline of what we've done on our journey. We've certainly learned an awful lot along the way. So first of all, who are we? We're sell and service catering equipment. The company was set up in 1971. My folks took it over in 77, and we supply to public and private sectors. Fast food, hospitality, retail, corporate, education, health. We have 4 different locations then. We have our main head office here in Borough, Maynooth, another large office, and a couple of satellite offices then in Belfast and Donegal. And we have also presence in the UK mainland as well. So the main 2 areas are our Maynooth and our head office here in Borough. So our fabrication, or people then, we have a fabrication. It's where we manufacture stainless steel items. Basically, if you think of your kitchen at home, we buy and sell the equipment, like the cooker and the fridge, and the rest of the kitchen cupboards we manufacture here, and in a commercial kitchen, those are all in stainless steel. So fabrication is a large part of our organisation. Obviously, we have our own transport, which is a large part. We have a lot of service vehicles on the road with our engineers, and when we have a lot of salespeople on the road as well. So we have a total of 100 employees, but the main areas are our sales, service, and our manufacturing end. So carbon reduction review. We undertook a review of our operation to reduce our carbon footprint with 3 key areas. So we put in lighting solar panels in 2015. Then we changed our heating system to a biomass boiler in 2017, and in 2022 we started getting into electric vehicles. We set up a business improvement team in 2020 with the aim of trying to empower employees, and that was just trying to share knowledge. Like, I used to go around on a Friday evening here and turn off computers and turn off fans and turn off radiators or electric heaters that were on, and the boilers to make the tea. And we kind of thought that lights were left on, so we kind of, we thought we'd create a wee team, and all that was is just generally the things you're doing at home, and then it's on standby, turn it off, getting people to think about what they're doing and take responsibility really, and that was a big benefit, and it got everybody on board. And then we started to come through a few ideas of maybe we could do this and maybe we could do that. So that wee team has been very beneficial for us, and what we've done is take a person from each department, so one from the service, one from the sales, and one from the administration stroke logistics. So yeah, we've kind of covered this. So turn off the computers was one that was instead of, I used to go around and turn them all off. So on to the next, solar panels then. We introduced the solar panels through the government ROC scheme in 2015. They cost about 17 grand. That's working quite well for us. They have it slightly reduced. They're coming up to their 10-year life now, and we get 2.5 grand annually back from selling the electric to the grid. It paid for itself in about 4 or 5 years, and we actually we've worked out roughly that it saves us between 4 and 5 grand a year. So that's powering the electric for the offices and the warehouse. It's also we have implemented some charging points there for electric vehicles, and some of the areas of the warehouse I use the electric heating as opposed to the boiler biomass system we have in place. So let's talk about heating then. We had an old system. We used to, a lot of our stuff comes in crated up, and we used to get a lot of wood, and then we kind of created these kind of wood, a lot of pallets and a lot of wood that we were taking to Belfast. We were sending a lorry full of wood to Belfast to try and get it recycled. So we implemented an old style Farm 2000 boiler system, which worked very well for us. And it heat up water, then went through a heat exchanger, and then that transferred heat then throughout the buildings. Worked great. It was a very manual system, and then we were burning the pallets. It was great. It was getting rid of the pallets, but it took about a day and a half to heat up. So it was nearly Tuesday afternoon before you'd heat. So Monday was a very cold day in the office. Then we replaced that with the biomass system. And that was part of, many of you will recall, our Arlene's Burn to Earn scheme. It wasn't the reason we really went into it. We already had a biomass system, so we kept the old one to burn the pallets if we needed to. We now recycle them. People are actually happy to get pallets now, which is great. But the approximate cost of the biomass system was 50 grand. The biggest benefit to it was it used the wood pellets. We have an ogre then, so it's a self-feeding system, so we can turn the heat down then at the weekend and then have it coming back up again for people coming back in then on a Monday morning. We actually turn it off in the summertime because we don't actually need it. Before we did this, we insulated the building well. We've a fairly old building here in Borough, and it's like an old bungalow that has been converted, and we spent a fair wee bit of money insulating that as well before we went down the road of the biomass. Lighting. 2020 then we went on to, we had a look at our warehouse lighting and the lighting throughout the building. We were doing a bit of renovation work, converting the test kitchen and creating a place where people could come and train staff on equipment, and we could try out menus and demonstrate our equipment. So part of that then we decided we'd have a whole look at the whole building in terms of lighting, and we converted for the warehouse to LED lights. We removed the floodlights from outside, and we moved the internal offices to LED and some fluorescent LEDs, which has worked very well for us. Electric vehicles. Then we moved on to our electric vehicles, and you know, this was a bit of a step change for us. I'm a great believer in don't be asking something to do something you wouldn't do yourself. So I'm driving an electric car now 2 years, over 2 years now. We've 3 charging points here in the office. We've one in Maynooth. The sales team we've about 8 guys in the sales team now running electric vehicles, which is working very well for us. It doesn't really work unless the people have a charger at home, and we fit at chargers at the staff's homes, because you know, I've even found myself, you don't necessarily know exactly where you're going, and sometimes you need to go somewhere at the drop of a hat, and if you haven't the charge, then you're kind of stuck. Those of you who maybe drive electric vehicles will know it's not just a quick fix. You just can't pull in, fill it up, and get 400 miles in the tank. We did buy a service van, was supposed to have a range of 200 miles, and in effect, whenever you find, you know, my car is supposed to have a range of 400 miles, really it doesn't. It's about 300. So that's something to look out for if you're looking at service or looking at electric vehicles. The service van didn't really work for us. It ended up only having about 120 miles, and our guys would be covering more than that in a day, going down to fix equipment. So we now have that van. Works very well for us now, based at the office here. So some of the young lads come in, because of insurance, some of them are not allowed to take the vans home. Some of the young lads come in, and then they'll go and do a call locally, maybe to Belfast and back, and then it always comes back here to get charged up in the evening time. Something that was my own personal experience. The electric vehicle actually pushed me down the road of being better organised. You know, I could have been in Belfast every day. Now I'm in Belfast 3 times a week, and that's only a matter of thinking about, rather than yep, I'll just jump and go now, trying to organise the diary a little bit better, because you're thinking, okay, if I do that, then I can do that all in the one charge, rather than, you know, nipping up and down. And that actually was something that I found to be a benefit that I wasn't expecting. Next one is the corporate social responsibility. So some of you will have heard about this now. You know, we've pledged to commit to reducing our carbon footprint by 50% by 2030. So this is all about you. Some of you who have already started this journey, you'll find this coming out in tenders, particularly in public sector tenders. We're across now in the UK mainland, and we do a fair wee bit of work for large corporate in Dublin, like the Googles, the LinkedIns, KPMG, NL Goodbodies. Those companies are all driving now and putting part of their package in the tender has got to be, where are you in your corporate social responsibility journey? So that all fits in very nicely with your carbon footprint. And you've got your 3 levels. Your scope 1 is what do you do? That's your lighting and the heating. And then tier 2, we've done the vehicles. Tier 3 then is our supply chain. And what are we doing really with it? Well, we buy stainless, and most of the kit that we supply is made out of stainless steel. So stainless steel used to be made by old foundries here, and I think there is maybe still one left in UK mainland, but maybe Lucy can correct me on that. For example, Falcon used to have a foundry in Scotland. That's long gone over the last 30 years. It takes 10 tons of carbon to produce 1 ton of stainless. most of the stainless that's made out in the Far East is made this way. Stainless that's made in Europe, it takes 3 tons of carbon to produce 1 ton of stainless. But we've now discovered that we've been recycling our stainless, our offcuts. We've always been recycling. But the recycled stainless is now going to the top of the chain, and the manufacturers of new equipment are starting to manufacture that out of recycled stainless. So that will actually be less than 1 ton of carbon to produce 1 ton of stainless. So, in scope 3, you need to look at the supply chain. So that's something that we definitely can latch onto and push our supply chain, our other suppliers, as well as our stainless suppliers, to be going down the road of looking at recycled stainless steel. What other initiatives have we introduced? The Bike to Work scheme. People have bought maybe now more electric bikes than ordinary push bikes through the Bike to Work scheme. A couple in our Belfast office cycle into to the Belfast office, and that has worked a treat for us. We operate a hybrid working, so you can work from home up to a couple of days a week. We have a lot of vehicles on the road. We've 50 vehicles on the road, so we implement car and van sharing, and then in the logistics, full load deliveries. Just to touch a wee bit on the vehicles, then we kind of to give you a wee bit more information on that. The running cost of the electric vehicles, we reckon we're saving 25% on the cost of the fuel. The maintenance on the electric vehicles, remember now we're only into our 2nd year of electric vehicles, but there's no maintenance. Like, I take the car into the garage, or the van goes into the garage, and basically they walk around, they kick the tires. Anything that has been a software upgrade, which has been like a factory recall. So from that point of view, we've spent very little money on the maintenance, and we're hoping that will really be very good for us in years 4 and 5. We normally run a 5-year life cycle for our company vehicles here. Something to watch out for: tires. Normally you'd have got about 25,000 out of a set of tires. You're only getting 16,000 out of a set on an electric vehicle. So they're 2/3. They're more you'll end up putting another set of tires on during the lifetime of the vehicle. We're not sure about the resale value. Certainly the cars are more expensive. We run eight cars there, so we're talking half of our sales fleet that's on the road is in cars. We have 1 van, so we're on about 20% of our vehicles are electric. It landed on my desk. We used to, from the 1st of April, we'll be paying car tax on an electric vehicle now, which is maybe not that great. And the capital cost of the vehicle, an ordinary van would have been costing us maybe 20 grand. The electric van's 30,000. A car we'd have been spending between 15 and 20,000. That's now between 30 and 40,000. So the jury's still probably out on whether we're going to save a lot of money on the electric vehicles, but at the minute it certainly isn't costing us any more, and the longer we run them, the more benefit I think we're going to achieve. And I think it's year 4 and year 5 where they'll really start to pay for themselves, where somebody told me that there's over 2,000 component parts in a combustion engine car, and there's only something like 800 in an electric car. So that tells me there'll be less servicing. What else are we doing? We have some manufacturers that are ready. So something maybe particularly interesting for Connor is hydrocarbon. Some of our manufacturers, one in particular, is ready. So if somebody said to me tomorrow, I want a commercial kitchen and I'm only running on hydrocarbon, we can supply that kit. There is currently a test town, if you like, in UK mainland that is running a kitchen, and it's an alternative to gas equipment. We're supplying an energy efficient kit. What are we going to look at? We're going to probably look at increasing our solar panels in the not too distant future, and maybe, I don't know whether we'll have to replace what we have because they're coming up to 10 years, but that's probably what we have on the horizon. I think that's me. Hopefully
okay.
useful.
Yeah, Very useful, Paul. Thank you. I think the first thing I'm going to do is go around the house after this call's over and turn everything that's on standby off. If it doesn't need to be on standby, should probably be doing that anyway, but that behavioral change again is difficult to implement. Okay, so thank you very much, Paul. Very useful and hopefully relevant for some of the companies and stakeholders on the call. Again, if you do have any questions that you want to pose in the chat, please do so. And if we don't get them to them today, appreciate we are running out of time. We will try and get responses. Somebody has also asked in the chat about, Gillian Hamilton has asked about the slides being available. We will make the slides available and the recording available beyond the end of the webinar. So happy to do that. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we'll maybe move on to the final poll. Donna, if that's okay. You still do have time to submit questions. I think the one comment in the chat was from Mark, but I think noting Scope 3 emissions was just in response to the previous survey, I think. Okay, so if you scan the QR code again, very quickly, just a couple of questions about your response or your thoughts on this webinar and what you've heard today, and this might generate some discussion as well before we close out in a couple of minutes' time. So if you scan the QR code or use the URL link and the code for Slido, you should see the first question, which is, think your knowledge and understanding of energy efficiency has increased? 2 people saying yes. We'll give maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds to respond to each of these 3 questions. It helps us in terms of future planning for other webinars, and it helps us track just the understanding and the knowledge transfer from the likes of this one. So overwhelming, most people are saying that they have benefited. So how likely are you to implement any of the energy efficiency measures discussed today is the second one. And obviously quite a number have been implemented there by Paul and Stephen's Catering. So again, very likely. So hopefully some of Paul's learning and the challenges or lessons learned along the way might help you. Okay, excellent. 13 responded, and again seeing the vast majority of people likely to do something like this or already doing it. And then the most significant barriers to implementing energy efficiency saving measures, again, budget or investment, runaway leader. Resistance to change I thought might be higher. I think you can choose all of the ones that apply here, so not just the most significant, but the ones that you think are significant. Thought maybe resistance to change particularly from organizations that have maybe 10 plus staff. So yeah, that's interesting that's maybe not one of the higher priorities. Lack of expertise. If you want to comment on that, if anybody wants to make a comment on exactly what type of expertise you're missing, is it technology? Is it how to implement it? Is it the planning side of it? Feel free to put that in the chat as well. Okay, I think that's the final question on the Slido. Donna, if you want to close that down, we'll wrap up very quickly. We did promise 45 minutes. So just in terms of next steps and what else is coming up on the Net Zero Insights series, we have the 2 energy efficiency webinars today, this one that you're on just now, and then another one for the larger businesses at 2 o'clock. The company case study at 2 o'clock will be Kieran Maxwell from Ryobi Aluminium Casting, also based in the Borough. We then have identified 6 more subject areas that we would like to do webinars on between now and June when our Net Zero programme finishes. And you can see the titles there. If there are any other subject areas that you think we should be covering that aren't included there, please do get in touch and we'll show you how to do that on the next slide. We'll be circulating dates and registration information in due course for these remaining webinars. So we hope you'll join us for some more of those. We do have more speakers lined up, a variety of both subject matter experts and company case studies lined up over the next 6 months or so. So we'll be sharing information on those on Council's social media pages and via our mailing lists. And then finally, just my contact details and our council's social media accounts on the screen in front of you. There's also a QR code there. So if you do want to reach out outside of the chat to ask questions of our speakers, to request slides, although we'll share those directly, or if there's anything else you think you'd like to get involved in or understand more about, please don't hesitate to get in touch. One final check of the chat shows there's nothing else, I don't think specifically people are asking just at this stage, maybe a reflection that our two speakers have covered everything, which is great. So again, contact details on the slide. Other than that, I think just all that's left for me to do is thank our staff in the background. Ryan and Donna have been working away in the background with the PowerPoint and the polls, so thank you. And thanks obviously to Lucy from Energy Saving Trust and Paul from Stephen's Catering for your presentations. They seem to have been well received. And thank you all for attending. That's us for today. We might see some of you either on future webinars or elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.